Hello, everyone. Paulievonedwaerd here. We are just making sure that we've got everything worked out with our microphone issue. Let's see here. Make sure that's coming through. Hold on just a second. We seem to still be possibly having an issue with the microphone here. Let's see. We're just bringing up our microphone control panel here to see if, there we go. Okay, now we're getting picked up. Okay, so welcome everyone. Paulievonedwaerd here. We're going to be going over a meditation style today. And this meditation style has to do with spirals. Although we also want to talk today, if you want to talk about spirals as a cultural significance. Spirals found their way in meditation symbology and cultural symbology, spiritual symbology, going back as far as recorded history. It's used around the world in all sorts of different ways. I mean, spirals are. And we also want to go over how they show up in artwork and architecture and also in mathematics and things of this nature. The reason why we feel that spirals are significant in a meditation practice, or they can be, depending on how they show up for someone, is because spirals kind of have a universal symbology for a lot of people and a lot of cultures as a worldview that speaks to something greater than oneself. So it is not only the importance of this greater kind of worldview, like a great spirit or life force or your God that is greater than yourself, but also paying close attention to the individual and the journey that they are on. So, as you as an individual, the journey that you are on, the spiral can represent, like the God or life force at the center, and it can also represent what emanates from that. And so the journey you're on can start at the outside of the spiral or the inside, and the spirals can work inwards, they can unfold and work outwards. But again, it's that kind of representation of the importance of the individual and also something greater than oneself. So you're going to notice today we use a lot of language that's very similar as we speak with different cultures. You may find that maybe we sound like we are repeating ourselves, but that is only because of the fact there are so many similarities that we see between so many different cultures and practices and belief systems throughout the world. So we'll go over some of those in a little bit. First of all, the significance that shows up, the reason why so many people see significance in spirals. We're not necessarily just talking about spirals as just a circle with one line that continually goes towards the center. Spirals can show up in a variety of different ways to represent a journey. So a spiral can represent a journey because of this twisting, winding path, things that we learn as we travel on a journey, and the destination is at the center. Or you start a journey at the center, like you start at a home base, and you journey outwards from that spiral. And then what do you experience from that? What can you bring back to the center, etc.? So it again is that kind of a cyclical thinking. And the cycles that often are associated with spirals have to do with either from a small scale or a grand scale, life, death, rebirth. So cycles of existence, cycles of how things are created, how they live, how they die, how they're recreated, how they're reborn, or any language you want to use like that. And this is how spirals tie in with spirituality quite a bit. Spirals are often represented with archetypes or gods and goddesses, or are used in ceremonial purposes to represent this kind of transformation, a kind of, we're beginning something, we're gathering energy and then letting it go again. And then it's coming back again. So that kind of, you can think of a cycle, think of a spiral in a cycle sense as like an engine turning around and around and around. It's just that as it does that, We see spirals when people talk about like hypnotizing or something, the spiral going around and around. But often, if a spiral is represented in art correctly, you'll notice the cycle. Sometimes you can't tell if it's moving inwards or moving outwards. It's kind of a trick of the eye kind of thing. But that people relate that with their spirituality a lot because of the fact that quite often in people's spiritual practices, we're discussing things that have to do with the personal self discovery or matters of actual life and death, dealing with people who are going through things in their life that deal with transformation or actual, someone passing away, passing to the other side or to the next life, and what have you. And this is very important because we point out, we like to say that spirals are like a way through to the other side. And the reason why V believe that personally is because, in a spiritual sense, and again, this doesn't matter if you follow a particular deity, if your spirituality is wholly personal, if it is something that is just for yourself and no one else has described in a book or anything like that, whatever spirituality calls to you is often a transformative process for people. So it's a way through to the other side, a way to look past the veil or push it aside and move on to something else, or to evolve the self. And this is how spirals also figure into healing quite often for people. In many cultures and in many beliefs, a spiral represents a healing process. So again, it's that growth, the transformation. It's quite often very personal, as you will see in the cultural examples that V will bring forward. But again, speaks to that journey to also something greater than oneself, whatever that means to you personally. And that's really what we want to point out is very important here. Quite often what we do with meditation is it's very, very personal. So ask yourself, like, how do spirals show up for me in my life? How do they seem significant to me? Is it in art? Is it in numbers? Is it in your actual spiritual or religious practice? Ask yourself that and see what you might be able to find in the symbol of the spiral and how it resonates with you when you do your meditation, or if you do praying, or whatever you might practice as you're exercising. How do spirals come across to you? And as we go through these different cultures, maybe something will resonate with you in a particular way. And you can research that more. Because again, a lot of the information we have on here is from our own personal experience and also can be very easily found through internet searches or just speaking with people in these various cultures if they're unfamiliar to you. So I'm going to get another drink here and diving into the cultural aspects of spirals. Native American culture, indigenous culture in general around the world speaks of cycles as cyclical, representing the cyclical nature of existence, the growth of life, the transformation or death, and then rebirth into something new, the cycles of the seasons. They're quite often represent also the conduits for ancestral knowledge. So this is the journey where it can be started at the center. Let me back up a second. So in the first case, cyclical nature of existence can be seen as starting at the center, things evolve and move outwards and grow, and then things may be left behind or die off and return to like the center or a seed again. And this conduits for ancestral wisdom is more starting at the outside. There's all this wisdom of the people who've come before us, of our own ancestors or energies that we may tap into in this life. And these things are then focused in on us the more that we try to concentrate on them, but they're all around us. That's part of that part of indigenous cultural belief, some of them. And then there's also swirling patterns in dancing. A lot of ceremonial dancing has to do with spinning. And this can be to collect energy. It can also be to disperse energy. And it can usually mean that someone is channeling, like either the ancestral wisdom we spoke of earlier, or this universal life force of nature, the cycles of nature. And we find that this resonates with V personally quite a bit because of the fact that we live here in the United States and the Native American culture is quite prevalent in the area that we live. We've met some people. We've been able to participate with in an actual authentic sweat lodge experience, which was a ceremonial experience that was wondrous without words. And we were very blessed for that and the people we met through that. So that's been very near and dear to our heart throughout our entire life, and is very easily accessible where we live. And we highly recommend, if you're looking into spirals in native cultures, possibly look into people when they will find a spiral pattern and want to get it as a tattoo, or you'll find it in landscapes and architecture. It's very significant. The next thing we like to talk on is the Catholic practice of centering prayer. And we bring this up for two reasons. First of all, because in our mind, prayer and meditation, as someone who used to be religious, who used to be Christian, prayer and meditation are very close in our mind in the way that people practice it, for what people are going after when they do it. And yet there's a lot of controversy. Centering prayer is no exception. A lot of controversy between mentioning like prayer and meditation in the same breath for some people, usually because of the fact that there is stigma associated one way or the other with those words. And we are hoping here to kind of break that down a little bit. We understand prayer may be triggering for people, meditation might bring up certain feelings and repulsions for people. Really, at the end of the day, what does one want to do to get to know oneself better, or get to know your personal divinity, your connection with your deity? Prayer and meditation have a lot of similarities. And we practiced centering prayer as a Christian when we were Christian, and it was a huge gateway for us into meditation in general. So it really helped us in a major way. We all go through different things and changes in our life, and sometimes you can look at a point in your life and go, oh, but that was significant. That needed to happen. And that's how we feel centering prayer was for us, to open up even more information and more energy for us on meditation. Centering prayer was created by monks, a monk in particular, but monks practicing a type of prayer where they thought of God at the center of a spiral, and that we are all on this journey through life, and that if you focus on a word, a particular word, that is there at the center, and it would help one when you close your eyes, or when you're calm and praying. As being a Christian, you would be praying to God, and you're on this journey. God is at the center of this, and the word helps you focus on getting in better touch with the Christian God. So this has been controversial in the Catholic spaces because of monks coming up with this and people saying, well, that's not really Christian because it's like meditation and all of this. And so whatever your thoughts and feelings on that, I think it's important to note the controversy points out really how similar the things are, that people can get them confused very easily. Because really, meditation and prayer, while they can be practiced very, very differently, are essentially, again, going after the same thing. So one thing we've heard a lot of, what we've seen a lot of talk about with centering prayer online, is that it really is about letting go. So centering prayer is letting go of attachment, or things that might make you try to get to God or know God better. And instead you let go, and you just follow this spiral path and trust, with this word you keep in mind, that God will be there for you. Now, moving on to Celtic culture. In Celtic culture, there is a triple spiral known as a triskelion. It's sometimes often represented as triple triangles too. But the triple spiral, the triskelion, represents the maiden mother crone archetype. So again, that youth and growth, and then old age, and then returning to the maiden again through transformation, like all things go through. And this is a reminder of the cycle of life again that we see in spiral in so many cultures. And here it is often represented in many different types of stories. This can also be equated to how there are the fates weaving things together, depending on how you want to branch out with that and where people have taken it over the years. In Zen Buddhism, you have the emptiness or the void, or known as sunyata. This is to let go of attachments or the ego in order to attain enlightenment. So a lot of people who practice Zen Buddhism, one of the tenets of Buddhism, due to Buddha himself, was to try to attain enlightenment. And so this is giving, again, letting go, letting everything go, trusting in the path, trusting in the flow. And this is sometimes represented as a spiral. In Taoism, You have the symbol of the yin yang. This is also quite prevalent in a lot of other cultures that may not practice Taoism. This is very strong in Chinese culture, for example. The yin and the yang is about duality and harmony. It's often represented as a circle. It has an S down the center. Many people are familiar with the yin yang, the two dots, the black and white, or various colors. I mean, we had a friend who got a tattoo of a yin yang that was yellow and red, and it's all about that kind of as above, so below, the balance in things. But represented as that circle that is kind of swirling together. And in Hindu, we have Kundalini energy. So Kundalini is a form of yoga practice, but also a deeper part of a belief structure there. In Kundalini, in yoga, focuses on like breath work and collecting energy and then using it and dispersing it in various ways, and is often represented as a coiled serpent at the base of the spine, which then unravels and spirals upwards to awaken your inner consciousness. This is a Kundalini practice in Hindu. So, moving on to ancient Greece, spirals are often associated with the goddess Athena. And this is because Athena is a representation of wisdom and knowledge. Her wisdom and knowledge unfolds in an ever expanding spiral the more you get to know her. So then going to something like just general art and architecture and math, it's quite interesting if one looks for spirals and things, how they show up and what possibly the artist wanted to represent with them. Especially if you see things like the conch shell in artwork. And also if you see fractals used. Fractals is actually, those are taken from actual mathematical equations that go on to infinity and are a repeating pattern. Fractals make beautiful artwork. Depending on how they're used, they can make some just insane kind of art. And again, it's that kind of that spiral that kind of goes to infinity. Depending on if you follow it in one direction, it's almost like trees. They can branch this way, but it always looks the same. No matter how much you zoom in or zoom out on it, it's always the same pattern based on a mathematical equation. So it's really fascinating. Again, it's that spirals really represent that world or universal view of a journey to and from the inner self. It's that to and from. It's a flow. It's an ebb and a flow. It's not always moving inwards. It's not always moving outwards. It's moving in both directions simultaneously. Hence, again, when we notice, when we mentioned earlier, if you notice in some spiral drawings, when you turn them, it's hard to notice if it's actually spiraling in or spiraling out, and two people can look at the same thing and see the opposite of what's happening there. So keep in mind when you see spirals that you're looking for something that is like something that calls to you as your individual self, and also what possibly draws you to something greater than yourself, and see how those work for you when they show up for you. And if you want to incorporate those into meditation, we're going to go into a meditation practice right now. If you watched our other intro to meditation breathwork video, you can use the boxed or the cyclical breathwork that we introduce in that video. Otherwise, we recommend just slow breathing in through the nose and out the mouth, or vice versa, to create this kind of cycle vision. Cycle your breath. Bring it in one way and out another way, if that's comfortable for you. And we are going to help us all, everyone listening to this here, you can visualize a path that you're on using spirals. Let me get another drink here. And we'd recommend everybody just get in a comfortable position. Make sure that you are free from as much distraction as possible. You don't need to be seated or lying down, but that helps. Just make sure that you can kind of get to a place where your body is comfy, your sit bones are comfy. Kind of shake it off, shake your shoulders, fingers and toes. And you don't need to close your eyes all the way. If you can, that's good. But otherwise, just kind of let your eyes come to a gentle resting place. A nice, gentle resting place. Because what we're going to do is go on a little journey within here. You're going to go on a journey within on a spiral path. Let your breathing slow down. And as you begin to relax just a little more, your breathing is becoming steady. And begin to notice a particular word or a sound that comes to you. A picture, a color. It is at the center of your spiral path. Drop in to your path. You find yourself walking, moving along a path, floating, while keeping this word in mind, this picture, however it comes to you in this moment. Keep this in mind, because on this journey, this is not your destination, it is your guide. It is guiding you towards the center so you can know the reason you were shown this word or this color, this picture that's come to you. You may find as you move along this path that other pictures come into your vision, other sounds, people, places, and let these pass. You're passing them on your journey. You're just moving, walking, floating on this journey, keeping your word in mind, keeping your picture in mind. The answer is there. There's no rush. No need to move quickly. No need to move. The path carries you. And you know with joy you're always on this path. And you know that you will move to the answer. It's not an end. It's going to be a new start. A way to look at this word, this place, this color in a new way. You feel at the center there, the center of this spiral path, that you're being drawn towards the center, because that's where you will know why you have been shown this. Imagine that you are there. Don't even imagine. Bring yourself there. You're on this path, and you know at the center, at this golden light, perhaps the light has silver in it too, if that's more comfortable for you. And then you know. It may be another word, it may be a different picture, it may be the same one, but you know. There's no explanation needed. You feel healed. You feel warm. A warm love And you know you can continue the journey, because remember, the center isn't the end. You have new knowledge and can continue the journey. Try continuing this journey again later. Come back to where you are. Remember this feeling, and you know you can come back to it. And just let yourself kind of slowly come back here to the room, the place where you're sitting or standing or laying down. All of a sudden you come back, the spiral fades and dissolves, and you remember the feeling. Let your eyes slowly wake up and bring yourself back to the present. I hope that felt good for you. That was always an amazing journey for us. We love going on those kind of journeys in our mind with a spiral in mind. Again, it's very moving for V personally because of our history. So look for where spirals are significant in your life. They're everywhere and they're beautiful. They're in tie-dyed shirts, in conch shells, like we mentioned. They're often represented in, trails that airplanes leave in the sky, when people do Zen gardens and rake on the ground, or if you rake your leaves. Try to see what you can do with spirals, or just spin around in your yard when you dance. I mean, let's face it, that's one thing that's always fun to do, that if you can, it's always fun. So we hope this was educational and informative and very helpful. And we hope that you will find beauty in spirals in your life at other times. Join us again for more information on meditation next time, and peace to everyone. Love. Blessings.